There's collaborations with Nike with the national flower as a logo.
60 seconds. That's all it took. 1 minute and every single piece was gone. Jerseys, accessories, signature items, all of it, wiped from Nike's global inventory like it never existed. And while the internet lost its mind, while her name shot to the top of trending lists across 4 continents, the organization that's supposed to celebrate moments like this, the WTA, said absolutely nothing. Not a word. And that silence? That silence might be the most revealing thing to happen in women's tennis this year. So let's talk about what actually went down, who Alex Eala really is, and why a 20-year-old ranked 45th in the world is quietly rewriting the rules of tennis stardom in a way nobody in the establishment seems ready to admit. To understand the sellout, you have to understand the flower. The sampaguita is the national flower of the Philippines. Small, white, almost delicate-looking, but loaded with meaning. It represents purity, devotion, strength, things that go far deeper than aesthetics. And somewhere along the way, Eala decided that this flower wasn't just something she carried in her heart. It was something she'd carry on the court. She showed up at Wimbledon wearing it as a hair tie, this tiny, almost easy-to-miss detail, and people noticed. Filipinos noticed. Tennis fans noticed. The internet noticed. That moment planted a seed, and Nike, a company that has made a fortune knowing which seeds to water, saw exactly what was growing. The first collection built around the sampaguita did $20 million in its fiscal year. Read that again. $20 million built around a cultural symbol worn by a player outside the top 30, driven almost entirely by emotional connection rather than ranking points. And that was just the beginning. By December of last year, that number had grown to $2 billion. $2 billion. The kind of number that makes boardrooms go quiet and forces everyone in the room to reconsider everything they thought they knew about how tennis marketing works. But here's where the story gets really interesting because it's not just about the money. It's about the timing of everything that happened leading up to that April 1st sellout and what it says about the new architecture of fan power in professional sports. A few days before the drop, Eala sat down with Jessica Pegula on her podcast. Now, if you follow women's tennis, you know what Pegula's platform means. She doesn't hand the microphone to just anyone. She's built one of the most credible, most watched shows in the sport by being selective, by featuring people who actually move the conversation. When Eala sat across from her and confirmed that a new sampaguita collection was coming, and she said she was beyond excited, that she felt it as a genuine pride moment tied to everything that brought her into professional tennis, that conversation became a countdown clock for millions of people. Fans in Manila set alarms. Fans in Dubai set alarms. Fans in Los Angeles set alarms. And on April 1st, when the collection went live, 60 seconds later, the inventory read 0. 0. Resale markets exploded within minutes. Retailers were posting about it on Instagram before most people had even refreshed the page. This wasn't a regional sellout or a limited market moment. This was a global wipeout, and it happened faster than almost any drop in recent tennis history. But here's the part that really deserves your attention, the part that makes the story about something much bigger than merchandise. 3 weeks before that sellout, Eala walked off the court in Miami having just lost to Carolina Muchova 6-love, 6-2. That scoreline was brutal. Ruthless, actually. Muchova dismantled her so thoroughly that her ranking dropped 16 spots almost overnight, falling from a career high of 29 all the way down to 45. On paper, everything had stalled. The momentum she'd been building, the trajectory everyone was excited about, it looked like it had hit a wall. And then 60 seconds after a merch drop, she sold out the entire global inventory anyway. Think about what that means. Fans didn't wait for her to claw back into the top 30. They didn't put their wallets away and say, let's see what happens at Roland Garros first. They showed up anyway, immediately, at full force, while her ranking sat at 45. That kind of loyalty isn't manufactured by a marketing department. It isn't bought with a bigger advertising budget. It grows from something real, something personal, something that rankings and match results fundamentally cannot measure. And the brands understand this even if the tour doesn't. Back in February of this year, Eala visited Nike's headquarters in Oregon. And this wasn't just a standard athlete visit with a handshake and a photo. Nike had posters of her career highlights displayed across campus. They built custom Sampaguita designs specifically around her image and her heritage. They treated her not as a mid-ranked player with a marketable story, but as a long-term cultural icon, someone whose value extends years beyond whatever happens next week on clay. When a company that operates at Nike's level makes that kind of investment, they're not gambling. They've done the math. They've studied the demographic data, the social engagement, the secondary market behavior, the purchasing patterns across Southeast Asia, the Middle East, North America, and beyond. And what the math tells them is that Alex Eala generates demand that the traditional tennis ranking system simply wasn't built to measure. Tournament organizers are starting to see it too. During her Miami matches, the stands were packed with Philippine flags, hundreds of them, waving in a way you just don't see for players ranked in the 40s. Crowd energy exceeded projections. Digital engagement outpaced players sitting 20 spots higher in the rankings. The evidence isn't anecdotal anymore. It's financial, it's visual, it's demographic, and it's consistent. Every time Eala shows up, something measurable happens, and it has almost nothing to do with a final scoreline. What makes the Pagula podcast moment so significant is the peer-level respect it represented. Top players in any sport are very intentional about who they share their platform with. Pagula didn't have to feature Eala. She chose to. And by giving her the space to announce the Sampaguita drop during one of the sport's most watched conversations, she signaled something to the entire tennis world without ever having to say it out loud. She treated Eala like a star. And in the new economy of sports stardom, where platforms and cultural influence carry as much weight as prize money and ranking points, that kind of signal matters enormously. It shifts perception. It shifts opportunity. And it creates a kind of credibility that no press release can manufacture. Now, let's talk about the WTA, because their silence throughout all of this is genuinely fascinating to sit with. No press release. No social media acknowledgement. No celebration of the fact that one of their athletes just sold out a global Nike collection in 60 seconds while trending worldwide. Nothing. And you can interpret that silence a few different ways. Maybe the tour was simply caught off guard, still operating within a framework that wasn't built for this kind of commercial moment. Maybe they didn't know how to respond to something that doesn't fit neatly into their existing model of what tennis stardom looks like. Or maybe, and this is the uncomfortable possibility, they just didn't see it as their responsibility to celebrate. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. A 20-year-old athlete generates $2 billion in branded revenue, sells out a global inventory in under a minute, and the tour that governs her sport responds with complete institutional silence. Meanwhile, the fans, the brands, and the global market have already made their verdict clear. They don't need the WTA's validation to know what they're witnessing. Now, here's something worth saying because it matters to the full picture. After the Miami loss, after watching 16 ranking spots disappear, Eala didn't retreat. She didn't go quiet. She showed up on one of the sport's biggest podcasts, and she talked about the new collection with genuine excitement, with real energy, with the kind of enthusiasm that doesn't come from a media training script. She channeled everything she had into the part of her career she controls completely, her cultural identity, her connection to the Philippines, the symbol that millions of people around the world have come to associate with something larger than tennis. The sellout that followed wasn't just a commercial event. It was a statement. Resilience doesn't always look like winning the next tournament. Sometimes it looks like showing up after a brutal loss, celebrating who you are, and watching millions of people celebrate right alongside you. That's what happened on April 1st. And it will happen again. She's scheduled to debut on clay at the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open on April 6th, which is essentially right now. Roland Garros follows in May.